A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Liolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things DSTV Premiership action as I discuss post-match analysis between Kaizer Chiefs and AmaZulu, which played out to a 1-1 draw at the FNB Stadium. So, without wasting any time, then let's head into the tactical post-match analysis. So, the red team will represent Kaizer Chiefs, and then the blue team will represent AmaZulu. So, coming up into this encounter, then this was a game that Kaizer Chiefs were looking to get 3 points and then looking to climb to third spot within the DSTV Premiership, as they have been picking up the results as of late. And then AmaZulu, the last time out, did play to a 2-2 draw against Stellenbosch. So, this was a game where they were looking to bounce back. But when we have a look then at Kaizer Chiefs, they did start with a 4-3-3. In goals, they started with Daniel Akpe. At left back, they did start with Frosla, but Frosla then was injured and Pasela was brought on, which then to me was very disappointing because I just felt that Stuart Baxter could have given the chance to Mashiane, especially considering the fact that when Frosla had been playing within the left-back position, he wasn't really giving Kaizer Chiefs much from a qualitative perspective and from a tactical standpoint because he is right-footed. So he wasn't then giving them that width, whereas Mashiane would be able then to do that for this Kaizer Chiefs side. However, Mphahlele was brought in, which then for me is pretty much a similar sub, whereas I just felt that Mashiane was better suited to come in. Also then just give him a chance as a left-footed player down vertical zone 1. I think that he could have been a lot more effective, but then Baxter didn't do that. He put Mphahlele on. As the two centre-backs, they did go with Cardoso and Matoho. When you have a look at them then, very disappointed with Cardoso's performance throughout the game, where I just felt that at times his reading of the game was poor. And I just felt that when you have a look at the goal that was scored by AmaZulu, when you have a look at the situation then where De Jong was one-on-one with him and Matoho was there, you had Ntuli making the run. So in this case, I just felt that Cardoso had to get a lot tighter on De Jong and close down his angle and channel of the cross, because I just feel that he gives De Jong too much space, you know, and he's backpedaling as opposed to just trying to engage him and make sure that he puts his foot in. Whereas then De Jong has enough time then to play a beautiful cross into the corridor of uncertainty. Dolly then comes and he finishes. And this is then the problem that I've had with this centre-back pairing, is that at times they get stretched and at times they get beaten by the same ball. It's either a vertical ball in between the pair of them or it's just a simple cross that's played and they always get beaten by that ball. And when you have a look at it then, just very disappointed then with their decision-making and how then they just aren't able then to communicate as a pair because they keep making the same mistakes. At right back, they did start with Blom, and the one great moment I would say that he had then was that beautiful pass that he played for Keegan Dolly, when Keegan Dolly makes that run from the deep half space, from the deep right-sided half space, he makes that run. Blom was able to play that pass. Dolly comes onto it, plays it back, and that's how the goal came. Unfortunately for AmaZulu, it was an own goal. And moving on then right along, when you have a look at the midfield, they did go with the midfield three of Njabulo Ngcobo, Cole and Nange. Yet again, I think it was a very poor performance, especially from this midfield three, because, yeah, there's just no ball progression, there's no verticality, there's no creativity, there's no final third penetration. This midfield three is very reactive as opposed to proactive. They just don't offer anything for this Kaizer Chiefs side in possession. And when you have a look then at Cole Alexander, very disappointed then with his decision-making and his performance, especially when you consider the 2 yellow cards he picked up. Both of them, you know, reckless fouls where in the part of the pitch where you shouldn't be making those fouls, you know, especially when you look at the second foul. He does get a bad first touch, and then he rushes in. And yes, some might argue that he doesn't make that contact. But at the end of the day, he is a reckless player. You know, not that I'm excusing the referee, but at the end of the day, reckless fouls and bad decision making and a bad first touch where, you know, it shouldn't lead to that situation where then the ball was with you originally, but your bad first touch, you're then scrambling then to try and recover the ball. So just overall, a poor performance then when you look at it from a midfield perspective. And then the front three, you had Sikhota, who started off the left. Very disappointed then with his performance, especially considering that this was a great opportunity for him to actually show what he can do. I think he only had one really good moment within the second half where he does make the run down the left-hand side. He puts that ball in for Keegan Dolly, but Keegan Dolly is unable to finish. Bernard Parker started up front. Yeah, another player then who struggled on the day for me. Keegan Dolly started off the right. And when you have a look at Keegan Dolly then, that one really good moment was then when he makes that run from the deep half space, from the deep pocket of space. And then he finds that ball and then he's able to play across. Then Keegan Buchanan does score the own goal. But when you have a look at Keegan Dolly, also disappointed by his performance because then I just feel that he couldn't affect the game. And when he had such a glorious chance to put Kaizer Chiefs 2-0 up, he's not able to finish. Instead, he hits that ball straight to Velimoto where he's supposed to then just place the ball. Overall, when you look at Kaizer Chiefs, very disappointed with their performance. I think this is one of the worst performances, if not the worst performance this season. They just, yeah, it was just very bad. And they just couldn't string passes along together. They couldn't grow into the game. They couldn't trouble this AmaZulu side. I stand to be corrected, but they only had one shot on target, which is very, very poor. And yeah, they just couldn't affect the game at all. Also then, from Stuart Baxter's perspective, very disappointed that he doesn't institute changes from early on when he then sees that the game and the team is very much dead because the team just wasn't functioning on the day. So institute changes a lot earlier. Bring Bacchus on, bring Nobo on, bring Khatebe on, bring Mashiane on. Players then who could look to make an impact, but very, very disappointing then when you have a look at this Kaizer Chiefs side. Moving on then right along to AmaZulu. When you have a look at AmaZulu then, they did start with the 4-3-3. In goals, they started with Velimoto. He didn't have much to do, but that good save that he makes by that Keegan Dolly shot. Keegan Dolly does make it easy for him. A back four of Gumede, Tapelo Tlogi, Mgwazela, and Malepe as well. So this back four wasn't really troubled throughout the game as Kaizer Chiefs just couldn't really penetrate and they didn't have sufficient creativity on the day and they only had one shot on target. So yeah, moving on right along into the heart of midfield, Mgwazela, Buchanan and Sitebe. Very happy with Mgwazela's performance. I think that he had such a great match. In my opinion, I think he was the man of the match. How he cleaned up very well in the heart of midfield, how he was spraying those passes and dictating terms within the heart of midfield for this AmaZulu side. Keegan Buchanan, yeah, I think this is a game that he will want to forget because he does score that own goal. After the own goal, the confidence does drop. Sitebe started then, and then you had as the front three, you had Kalinge, Mulenga, and Maduna. So Mulenga then did start as the false nine, but he wasn't really effective in that role, and AmaZulu couldn't really penetrate. At times, they had spells of possession, but they just weren't penetrative enough to get that goal. Until then, Benny McCarthy then does institute the changes, and he brought on Ntuli, he brought on De Jong, he brought on Memela, he brought on Extin, and he brought on Majoro. But most notably then, De Jong, Ntuli and Memela do come on and they make such a huge difference for this AmaZulu side as they were a lot more penetrative. So when you have a look at that goal then, it is De Jong who comes on and he made the biggest impact in this game because once he comes on, he plays two beautiful crosses, one for Kalinge in the back post where he's not able to finish, the other one for Ntuli when Ntuli finishes. And at the end of the day, then this is a game that I think AmaZulu will be very disappointed with because I just felt that the game was there for the taking. They could have gone on and got the 3 points. So at the end of the day, then it is disappointing from a Kaizer Chiefs perspective. AmaZulu will also walk away very disappointed. And from a qualitative perspective, yeah, this game, yeah, Yeah. Very poor then on quality, for large parts of the game, It's only at certain phases and towards the end of the game where you start to see the quality of AmaZulu with regards to them being more penetrative and trying to institute that creative action. So, as I predicted, it does end 1-1 at the F&B Stadium between Kaizer Chiefs and AmaZulu. So, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Liolo. It is DSTV Premiership action as Kaizer Chiefs play to a 1-0 draw against AmaZulu. Babi Sebonke signing out.